Right now, right now. 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 Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. In this episode, we are going to be talking about the major bad sign that is taking place on Bitcoin right now. As you already know, Bitcoin has been through a major corrective movement over just the last couple of weeks, and in that movement, we have dropped back down to critical support architecture around $54,000. About 2 weeks ago, when I came back to the stream after my paternity leave ended, I discussed with you how a $54,000 Bitcoin was very likely to occur. In fact, that would be 2 weeks ago today that we made that prediction. Right now, Bitcoin is trading at $53,600, and we're going to talk about where Bitcoin is going next. I have deep concerns that a major corrective movement is coming to Bitcoin here in the middle of the bull market, although if you watched last week's content, you'll know that I don't think the bull market is anywhere near over. We did some facts and evidence and historical analysis-based predictions on where Bitcoin would go, and we came up with a prediction on average of about $168,000 by December 1st of 2025. That's a little over a year from now. So today, we're going to be talking about how the short-term implication could lead into the longer-term impact that this market will have. We've got a major election coming up in under 60 days, and it is dominating the media right now. Today, we're going to talk about where Bitcoin is going next, and as always, the most important thing we will do today is discuss how we can better ourselves to build more wealth. And that's where I want to start. Today is day 15 of me running a mile every day. I saw Dave Ramsey did this, and, you know, apparently I just do everything that he does. So I thought it was a really good idea. So I decided I would do it for 10 days. That was 15 days ago, and I've made it at least a mile, run, walk, at least a mile every single day. And today I went out and my legs were just on fire. I am not sleeping enough. I've got a newborn at home, so I know I'm not recovering the way I need to. I need to probably lose about 10, 15 pounds. Let's be honest here, right? And so what I'm learning is that it's not about how well you perform. What I'm learning is that it's about the fact that you showed up. I saw someone say something recently that really struck a nerve with me, and it helped me realize something that I have been missing my entire freaking life. And it's so profound. It's such a nugget of wisdom. And I want to share it with you here before we get into the technical analysis, because we can do all the TA we want. We can make predictions about where Bitcoin is going to go all day, and that's all fine and good. But if we are not who we need to be, then whatever we understand about the market will not do what we need it to do. Let me put it this way. Who we are, our being, what we stand for, our character, precedes our actions. So often, we try and get our actions in order, and we don't change the inward man. We don't change who we are on the inside. We want to have more money, but we are not willing to be more disciplined. We want to have better relationships, but we're not willing to be more friendly and to change our heart to a point of being compassionate. We want to have people like us, but we're not willing to help those that are less fortunate than ourselves. And one thing that we do in that realm is that we want to be motivated, which is the outward appearance. And that's me. That's me. This is one of my biggest, but we don't want to be disciplined. Friends, if you want to succeed in cryptocurrency, in a marriage, in school, in a career, on YouTube, you've got to stop thinking about it from the lens of motivation. I am not here to motivate you. I will never be here to motivate you. I will, however, be here to beg you to choose discipline. The last 15 days, although my times have been absolutely terrible, my best mile time has been 12 minutes. Full transparency. I don't care. You make fun of me if you want. I'm not a runner. I'm going to be. I'm working on it. Best mile time, 12 minutes. That's like a 5 mile an hour pace. Awful, right? I can sprint fast, but the fact is I'm showing up every day. And I want to encourage you guys. What is something that you can show up at consistently with discipline? Not motivation. Some of those days I don't want to be out there. Just being honest. I want to sit on the couch, whatever. we've got to figure out what are the things in life that we've got to be disciplined in. And if we are disciplined in them, then it will change our life. And today we're going to talk about some of those disciplines where we show up even if we don't want to, that will change our life. Welcome to the stream. I hope you are enjoying today's stream. If you are new here, I want you to drop a 1 in chat because I want to give you specifically a major shout out. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love that you are here, and I will be the very best steward of your time that I possibly can be because I value your time. For me, my time is my most precious resource outside of my relationships with the Lord and with my family. And so I want to make sure that I'm valuing your time. So we're going to read a little bit of chat, and then we're going to dive right on into it. Joe Bollier's in chat. Damasos Jesus Rivas Vargas is in chat. Good to see you. Alex Nibo's in chat. Big Wins in chat. Cosmin B, Peepin' Turtle. The Death Star, the first Death Star is in chat. Not the second one, the first one. James Bradley's in chat. Sean O'Brien, Al Bundles, and Andres Apple. Good morning. Satchet321. Be patient. All after 2020 halving. The real gains didn't happen until quarter 4 of 2020. And into 2021. That's right. All right, let's get started. We got a lot to cover. Right now, Bitcoin is trading at $55,500. It is up 2.46% over the last 24 hours, but over the last 7 days, it is down 4.43%, hovering just above $1 trillion market capitalization. And this is the bad sign that made you click on the video. There's a bad sign on Bitcoin right now. We're going to discuss that on the charts today. And that is that Bitcoin is building an enormous bear flag. Back up. I've been doing technical analysis on Bitcoin markets for over 7 years. And one of the things I found is that while there are a few paid indicators that are actually extremely helpful, generally speaking, basic stuff is all you need. I love LUX ALGO. It's one of the few actual fancy indicators I use because it does a really good job of aggregating a lot of things together. Has a great win rate. But generally speaking, and Crypto Gel Oscillator also, of course, I invented that, so I like it, obviously. But other than those two, there's a lot of value in the simplicities, in the simple side of technical analysis. And the reason for that comes from the fact that the more widespread, the more adopted a chart formation or a technical indicator is amongst the populace, the more powerful it is. Because those people that see the chart formation trade by it, and you get what's known as confirmation bias. If you see a major bearish sign on the chart and everybody sees it, then everyone starts to be bearish and everyone starts shorting. And so because it is perceived as bearish, it actually leads to bearish price action. And some of our most basic chart formations are our pennant patterns. For anyone who's been through the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, you will remember our pennant patterns. We have 3 of them. In fact, we have 5 of them because we also have the rising wedges, right? And we have the falling wedges. So we've got all of those, right? But there are 3 pennant patterns. We have our and a downtrending level of resistance. These are typically going to be bearish formations where we have the market move bearish into them, and 70% of the time, the market is going to move bearish out of them. They are what are known as continuation pennant patterns. Sometimes the market will reverse and go bullish. Generally, though, you've got about a 2/3 likelihood or more that they will continue the downtrend that they started with, that ran into them. Now, you also have a similar pattern called the symmetrical triangle pattern, right, which is right here. If the market's moving to the upside and you bounce around in here, this pennant pattern, a pennant is the name for a flag that is a triangle. You know, you've got your national flags. You've got the national flags right here. You know, you got the stars and bars. That's a flag, right? Well, if you actually look at the flag of Nepal, this is a good way to remember this. The Nepali flag, it is a series of 2 pennant patterns, right? This is the Nepali flag. It's not a rectangle like most. These are 2 pennants. It's called a pennant style flag. And so when we're looking at the flags on the chart, we've got our actual flags, which are our trading channels. But right now we're talking about our pennants, which are our symmetrical triangle patterns. Pennant, triangle, same meaning. It's a synonym, right? So our symmetrical triangle patterns, we normally break in the same direction that we moved into the pattern. And then we've got our ascending triangle patterns where we have flat resistance rather than flat support. And then we've got an uptrending level of support. Generally, these are going to form when you're hitting your head against a level of resistance, and then you're setting higher lows. This is kind of like what I'm trying to do with my running, right? I don't really care about getting faster on my peaks. I just want to not be as slow when I'm going slow, right? I want to kind of build almost this pattern with my times. And so the market's doing the same thing. It can do the same thing. You hit the same resistance, but you end up having higher lows. And what ends up happening is if you compress the market enough, it's like a spring. If you compress the market, it's in a small amount of space and it's banging around, then boom, it's going to end up having a major breakout in one direction or the other. So as you build up the tension here, you end up breaking out with a great degree of force proportional to how far you got into the pattern. The further you got into the pattern, the more force there is, which is dangerous, because if you find yourself in one of these patterns, every minute that goes by, one faction is winning because they're running out the clock. On an ascending triangle pattern, the further you go into the pennant pattern, the more bullish it gets, because the more constricted the market becomes and the more history you have that the bottoms are getting higher. Same thing on the bearish pennant side. On the bear pennant, as you fall down into the bear pennant, when you're right here, there's not much power in the bear pennant. It's barely even formed. As you go farther into the bear pennant, though, and you have more resistance touches, more support touches, then the bears start to get stronger, because we are seeing that we're hitting the same level of support over and over and over again, but the highs are getting lower, which means that the market's getting squeezed in between the support and the resistance, and that can only go on so long before, bang, we break out. And so the reason that I bring that teaching to you is because today we are building a descending triangle pattern on the Bitcoin chart, and it looks like this. We now have two levels falling trading channel. A falling level of resistance, a descending level of resistance. On the other hand, we have a triple bottom, once right here at $53,500, a second time right here at $53,500 in early August, and then we have another touch right here in early September. They're all about a month apart, almost exactly a month apart, and they're all here on $54,000. Now, we do have this candle wick down here, but this was a very, very, very short-term flash crash. If you look on the hourly chart, we barely spent any time down here at all, just a few hours. So while you could say that there is a wick right here, generally we're going to rule that out, because for the most part the market has been falling to the downside. Now, you could also draw a descending level of resistance right here, and this could end up looking like a falling wedge. I think it looks more like a descending triangle pattern, so we're going to look at it from that lens, but we'll look at it from a few different options as well. My concern is that the further that we get into this descending triangle pattern, just like we talked about in our teaching on descending triangle patterns, the more likely it is that we're going to actually break out to the downside, because the market was moving to the downside into this pattern. As we fall further into this pattern, and especially if we get a third, this would be the real concerning point. If we get a third touch that is lower than $65,000, which is highly likely right now, even if we rally up here, that is almost going to seal the deal that we're going to end up dropping lower. And if we do drop lower, then $49,000 comes back into play, because that's the high that we set on the day that the ETF launched, and it's the bottom of this candle wick. If we break up below $53,000 to $54,000, that level right there, that level of support, $49,000 is very, very likely to occur. And again, so we need to look at a couple of the other scenarios here, though, because you could say to yourself, well, Jeb, I think that actually looks more like a falling wedge. And didn't you just say that falling wedges actually break bullish more often than not? That's true, but you've got to take into account the overall market sentiment. And the market sentiment right now is that the market is very bearish. There's not much going on Bitcoin right now. Everywhere you look, people are saying this is a turtle market. People are saying this is a yawn market. People are saying, what the heck? I thought Bitcoin's going to be at 100K by now. It's not. There's a lot of disappointment in the market, and so there's not much exuberance. If there were more exuberance, then we might read this like a falling wedge, because technically you could draw it like a falling wedge. But the chart formation we're going to go with has to also take into account the type of market that we are looking at. And right now, the market feels a lot more like a falling wedge than a descending triangle pattern than a falling wedge, because there is so little exuberance. And when you see a falling wedge that reverses, generally you're not seeing a market that's just kind of bleeding energy, which is what we're doing right now, which is why we're more so in the bearish camp here. More so when you see a falling wedge, the 70% of the time that falling wedges actually are reversal patterns, normally the market just absolutely crashed into them. And the reason that it's a reversal pattern is because you're almost having this kind of curved bottom attitude. And so when you see a falling wedge, let's see if we can find an example. When you have a falling wedge, here's a good one. At the end of the bear market, we had a falling wedge. When you see a falling wedge like this that ends up being a reversal pattern, because this one was, generally the reason it's a reversal pattern is because you jumped off a cliff moving into it. And so when you break bullish out of it, it essentially means that you've got this almost curve here. Let's grab a curve. Where are my curves? There they are. It almost means that you've got this like curve leading into the bottom. And so the reason the falling wedge actually ends up being a reversal pattern is because it's indicative of a larger curve where the bears are losing strength, and the size of the distance between the bottoms is shrinking. That's a $7,000 difference. That's a $7,000 difference. Okay, but then this, just a $2,000 difference. That's where you're normally going to see a falling wedge be a reversal pattern, is when it's a part of an overall broad curved bottom. That's not what we're seeing right now. Instead, what we're seeing is the actual the actual highs are, instead of curve, right? We've got a curve like this going on, where the market is curving over because the bears are accelerating, it almost seems. And so that's where we're going to read this like a descending triangle pattern, because the rest of the market's context actually makes it seem a lot more like what we're looking at as a descending triangle pattern, even if we have to kind of fudge this bottom just a little bit, even if we wanted to just consider these two and rule out that data and make that extra data, whatever. You've got to look at the data not from a lens of trying to manipulate the data to what you want it to say, but looking at the data from the lens of context. And the context is the bears seem to be accelerating because we've been here for so long that sentiment is suffering. And so the bad sign that we're talking about today is that falling wedge likely could lead us down to $49,000. But let's look at a few other indicators. On the weekly chart, we've discussed several of these already. One of the things I'm concerned about on the weekly chart for Bitcoin is the fact that we are currently falling quite a far way below the 50 line on RSI. We discussed this a couple of weeks ago, and it's something that we need to pay very close attention to. During the last bull markets, you can see I have it drawn here, actually. During the last bull markets, the last bear markets, the bear markets really started when we fell below the 48 level. You see right here? We fell below the 48 level on RSI, dropped down to 43. We actually made a good bit of distance into the bearish part of RSI, and instead of being able to bounce and put a major bounce in, what we did instead is we set a lower high. See that? We set a low down here below 48. Then we bounced up and rallied and we set a lower high. And guess what happened? Let's draw a vertical line right here just to kind of get context. Oh, look at that. The bear market began. We were making content back here. Around that time that this occurred, Bitcoin was moving into the 2018, 2019, mainly 2018 bear market. Fast forward to the beginning of the 2022 bear market, and we saw a very similar thing happen. Bitcoin fell down here below the 48 level, down to 46, broke up, hit 50 and rejected off of it. And we see this kind of pattern where we're trying to get our head above water and we don't, and Bitcoin drowns. And so that's when we saw the bear market complete, or begin to complete. And so what we're seeing right now is concerning, because Bitcoin is falling beneath the 48 level. We fell down to 44. And so now, if Bitcoin doesn't break up here at least above this downtrending level of resistance on RSI, then what we're likely going to see is a precipitous decline on RSI, which would only be caused by one thing, a precipitous decline on the market, which would be caused by Bitcoin breaking below $54,000, which would lead Bitcoin into one of the largest corrections that we've seen so far this entire bull market. We've already dropped down 27%. We'd only be beating our current record. And if we did drop down to 49 on candle bodies, we would be dropping down a total of 33%. But wait, there's more. If Bitcoin follows in the shoes of what it did in the last bull market before the election, because remember, the election happened here in November of 2020, if we follow in the same shoes that we followed, if we walk in the same shoes that we walked in 2019 and 2020 before the election, Bitcoin could have up to, without a black swan event, a 54% corrective movement. With a black swan event, Bitcoin would drop 72% before the bull market kicked off. If a 53% corrective movement were to occur, then that could drop Bitcoin all the way down here to $35,000, which was a major level of support architecture that we discussed about a year ago here on the channel. Friends, a major corrective movement could be on the horizon for Bitcoin, followed by the most powerful bull market in the history of Bitcoin. From there, it could fall all the way down to $38,000, which would be our local bottom set here in January 2024 to erase all of the post-ETF bull market gains. But from there, that would likely lead us into the election. And quite frankly, no matter who wins the election, Bitcoin is probably going to go through a major bull market. And then we end up seeing our price targets that we made last week come into play here. See if we can't find them. We see our price targets come into play here that we made last week, where Bitcoin could rally all the way to between $88,000 and $248,000 around December of next year, based on the 4-year halving cycle and also based on the election being in November and how long it took Bitcoin to hit all-time high post-election. So let's kind of put this into a nice bow so that we can understand what's going on here. I just threw a lot of data at you. That's kind of what I do. That's my thing. I throw data, I throw facts at you, because here's the thing. When we're doing analysis on markets, I have gotten to the point where I can look at a market and I can almost do it automatically. You know, you get in your automatic car. We kind of take it for granted now. It shifts gears itself. You know, back in the day, it didn't do that. It had to be manual. I ride a motorcycle. Motorcycles are manual. You have to do the gear shifting yourself with your foot. You've got a clutch lever that you work, right? In technical analysis, I have been doing this for the better part of a decade. I've been doing this for a third of my life. And so I can look at a chart and I can pretty much tell you right out the gate what my prediction is. I can look at this chart and I can more or less tell you right now what I think is going to happen. That's not very scientific. It is very helpful, and it is intuition, and it's normally right. But it's not very scientific, and it's not very helpful to illuminate what's going on to you guys. What's helpful to you guys, and what is more scientific, to bring actual evidence and data, not just my expert opinion, but actual evidence and data to what we're doing here, is to look at the facts, Jack. And the facts are, after the elections that Bitcoin has witnessed in its history, Bitcoin has taken between 360 and 400 days to hit all-time high after every single election that Bitcoin has been around for in 2012, 2016, and 2020. Here in 2024, why would we expect anything different? We've barely broken all-time high. We're actually below the previous bull market's all-time high right now. So it would stand to reason that Bitcoin is not here, which occurred post-election, but instead Bitcoin is here, which happened pre-election. Yes, we are above the all-time high, but guess what? An ETF launched. If the Bitcoin at BlackRock ETF had not launched, Bitcoin would probably be still trading here around $45,000, which, if you draw a retracement, is 30% retrace from all-time high. Guess what? This market right here hit an all-time high of 30% retrace from all-time high. Correcting for the fact that we have different fundamentals right now than we did during the 2019 and 2020 lead up into that bull market, Bitcoin is not here on the cycle, hitting the cycle all-time high, cycle top. Instead, no, we're here. More evidence, please. The election happened here. The all-time high happened post-election. In fact, after the last election, Bitcoin hit all-time high 371 days after the election, give or take, right around that time. The election is going to be taking place in November, early November. Not very far away, very close. You can see how close it is. If we were to extrapolate another 380 days or so, which is the average time that Bitcoin hits all-time high post-election, that would be 1st of December 2025. But wait, how far should we rally? Well, if we saw that we are right here and not right here or right here, the all-time high, $65,000, $69,000, then we should expect that there's more rally to come. Well, based on election data, based on RSI, based on MACD, last week we drew some of this data right here, that we should be expecting an all-time high at that time around the 1st of December 2025, quarter 4 2025, between $88,000 and $248,000. If you bring an average of that, just the middle, you're looking at approximately $168,000. The reason for that is because we've already seen much of the bullish news that's going to happen this cycle already happen in the form of the ETF. Now, something could happen that we don't foresee, but things that are on the horizon are slim, unless Trump gets elected and he starts doing all these things that he's talked about with Bitcoin, taking on Bitcoin in the national reserves, etc. That would definitely boost the price of Bitcoin. But not knowing the outcome of the election, I'm going to say that $100,000 is probably going to be difficult resistance, and I think we'll get a little bit higher than that because I do think we'll break it. And then $100,000 to $125,000 by December of next year is basically my price target. But based on everything I just said, over the next few months, we could see a major corrective movement down to between about $35,000 and $40,000. And so what should we do with that? What should we do with that? We've got the analysis in hand. What do we do? Because again, I cannot make this point enough. We can sit here and we can just dance around the campfire and sing Kumbaya because we understand what the market's doing. We can make predictions and make ourselves look cool and, oh my gosh, Jab, I got that one right. Oh, I got that one wrong. We can sit here all day and say, this is where Bitcoin's going. This is where Bitcoin's going. This is where Bitcoin's going. Great. Here's the thing. If we don't actually do something with that, then all we were was entertained. Are you not entertained? I don't really care. That's not why I'm here. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm not an entertainer. I'm an educator. I want to entertain you. Listen, as an educator, a good educator entertains. Do you remember your favorite teacher in school? Tell me they weren't funny. Tell me they weren't a comedian. Tell me they weren't always cracking jokes. Tell me they weren't finding a way to make it fun. Of course they were. That's not what they were there for. They weren't a comedian. They were there to teach you. They use entertainment as a tool. Now, technical analysis is not entertainment. It is a science. But what it does, in the absence of application, is it entertains. And there's nothing wrong with entertainment, but it's not the point. The point here is I want to help you make money. What do we do if the market does drop down to $49,000? What do we do if Bitcoin does drop down to $35,000? Do we run around like a headless chicken? Do we lose our eggs? Do we lose our marbles? Do we have to go to the marble store because we lost all ours? Do we lose our mind? Is it somewhere else in town and you got to go find it? Like, what do we do if Bitcoin does correct? We ask ourselves one question. We ask ourselves one question, and I'm going to ask you this. Do you believe that over the next 5 to 7 years, Bitcoin will be worth more than it is now, and considerably more? Do you believe that? That is the only question that matters in investment. Everything else is secondary to that question. Do you believe that in 5 to 7 years, this asset will be worth more than it is right now? Do you believe that in 5 to 7 years, this piece of real estate will be worth more than it is right now? In 5 to 7 years, do you believe that this company will be worth more than it is right now? In 5 to 7 years, do you believe that the S&P 500 will be worth more than it is right now? If so, buy it. Get out of debt first. Get an emergency fund second. Everybody I know around me is following the financial sovereignty way because I don't just teach it here on the channel. I also teach it individually. My employees following it. A friend of mine's following it. My sister's best friend's mother is following it. My parents have followed it for a long time. They follow something very similar. We've followed it. It works. Get out of debt. Build an emergency fund so you don't have to go back into debt, and then throw as much money as you can into investment while also having a life. That's basically the essence of the financial sovereignty way. There are the steps, and we're going to teach them in the FinSov Academies coming soon. But here's the deal. We need to get to be investors, which means we got to get out of debt, use debt snowball, build an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months in a high-yield savings account. Come on now. And then we start piling money into investments in assets that we reasonably expect will be worth more in 5 to 7 years. Do you believe that in 5 to 7 years, Bitcoin will be worth more? Yeah, but I want to wait 5 or 7 years. Then you're not ready to be an investor. I'm sorry, but an investor doesn't hold something for 3 weeks. That's a trade. You can be a trader if you want to be. But let me tell you something. It is a lot harder to make money trading than it is investing. You know why? Because you're betting on your skills rather than as an investor, you're betting on a market. I trust Bitcoin more than I would ever trust myself being a trader. I don't care how skilled I am. I've been a very successful trader. I can trade. I always will trust the longevity and the appreciation of the Bitcoin market more than my own skills, because Bitcoin is a mass adopted piece of digital scarcity. One of the most valuable pieces of technology ever created in the history of mankind. Of course, it's going to go up in value. Do you believe that Bitcoin is going to appreciate in value over the next 5 to 7 years? If so, then a corrective movement on Bitcoin doesn't scare you. If so, then our analysis that Bitcoin could drop down to $49,000 or $40,000 or $35,000 doesn't freak you out. Instead, what you do is you buy, you acquire. And this is the point. We're going to do charts. We're going to do analysis. But what I'm worried about you doing is whether you're investing. And it goes back to that. It goes back to what I said at the beginning of the stream. Are you motivated or are you disciplined? Are you motivated? And what you're going to do is you're going to go invest your entire paycheck in Bitcoin because you're motivated. Or are you going to be disciplined and invest 15% of your paycheck in Bitcoin? In the stock market. Into buying rental properties. Are you motivated, which is short-term fire? If a lion jumps out at you, I want you to be motivated to get out of there. Motivation is very important. I'm not knocking motivation. But motivation is like stress. When you use it long-term, it exhausts you. Discipline is like joy. When you use it long-term, it fills you. Are you disciplined in your investment? Are you disciplined in a couple of key areas? Let's get really specific here. I want you to be able to use this. Are you disciplined, 1, in your DCA? Now, I'm assuming that you're out of debt and I'm assuming you have an emergency fund, I will never, ever recommend you to become an investor of any capacity, in any capacity, until you are out of consumer debt, not including your mortgage, and until you have a fully funded 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Jeb, that takes too long. Then don't go into so much debt. Simple? Simple. Now, I know some debt you can't control. Medical debt, for example, if you, let's say you made a mistake and you didn't have any health insurance or something, right? But don't go into so much debt. Put yourself in a position where you're not in debt. Live below your means. If you live below your means for long enough, you won't be in debt anymore. Wow. We've got some real insightful common sense going on here. Number 1, are you disciplined in your DCAing? By the way, don't forget to max out your retirement accounts. Don't forget to put 15% of your household income into retirement until you at least got a couple $1 million in there. I mean, come on. Do it. Why not? Max out your 401k. Max out your Roth IRA. Oh my gosh, Jeb, I don't believe in the stock market. Really? Listen, every election cycle is the worst, is the most dangerous election in the history of mankind. Let me tell you something. Over the last 30 years, the United States stock market is still up 1,100, almost 1,200%. That's 12x in 30 years. Jeb, 12x isn't that much. No, it's not. But when that 12x is being driven by the most powerful economy in the history of mankind, it is worth something. Should you put all of your wealth in the stock market? No, because it is intrinsically tied to the United States dollar. Should you put some? Yes, because you don't want to fiddle around with Bitcoin for so long that you end up making some mistakes and you're left with nothing. I've seen a lot of people that have tried a lot of things. The people that I coach that have $5 million net worths, every single one of them put money into their Roth IRA and their 401k. That might not be the way they built all their wealth, but they did at least do that as a baseline, so do that. After that, though, are you DCAing into different investments like Bitcoin? Are you DCAing into saving money for rental properties if that's what you want to do? Are you DCAing? Are you dollar cost averaging every paycheck, every month, once a week, whatever the number is? Are you dollar cost averaging? Our DCA strategy is very simple. Every interval, we will invest X into Y on Z. Dollar cost averaging is dead simple. It's simple, it's visionary, and it allows you to run with it. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2. Write the vision and make it plain so those who read it can run with it. Every interval, I, if I'm single, we, if we're married, will invest X into Y on Z. What does that mean? Every paycheck, we will invest $100 into Bitcoin on Coinbase. Dollar cost averaging is simple. This one sentence is how you DCA. Whether or not it works comes down to one thing. Whether you are disciplined in consistently applying your investment principles. DCA. Are you disciplined in consistently applying your investment principles? DCA IP. Are you disciplined in consistently applying your DCA? Number 2. Are you saving cash? Why? Because sometimes Bitcoin jumps off a cliff. Sometimes Bitcoin jumps down to $34,000. Sometimes Bitcoin drops down to $49,000. Sometimes Bitcoin drops down to $30,000. Now, I'm not advocating for you to hold on to a ton of cash, and I'm not advocating for you to hold on to it for a long time, because while cash is useful for an emergency fund, cash is useful for liquidity to ensure that you don't overdraft a bank account, and cash is useful for short-term savings to buy a dip, cash is not something you want to be holding for the ultra long term. Every year to two, at most, at least, you ought to be deploying your cash. If your cash position gets too big, then simply use it to increase the amount that you're dollar cost averaging. The most important thing is the consistent investment. But after you've set that up, it is okay to stack cash in the event that you see a major downturn. Because if you do see a major downturn, you want to be ready. The people that made money in 2008, and there were many of them. You've heard of a lot of them. The Dave Ramseys, these different people out there, lots of people. The people that made money in 2008, because they did, were the people that had debt? Nope. They had cash. They had the inverse of debt. They had money. They had cash, and they bought the hell out of everything they could find. Anything they could get their hands on, they bought it. They bought it. Because historically speaking, recessions last 1.5 to 3 years, and then a massive bull market ensues. There's one exception to that rule, and that was the Great Depression. In the history of the United States stock market, 150 years, there's one exception to that rule. A recession lasts 1 to 3, maybe 5 years, and then it goes into a massive rally. People bought everything they could get their hands on. Bitcoin is getting into a very similar vein. If you see a dip on Bitcoin, what you should do is buy it and promise yourself that you're going to hold it for at least 5 years. You will make money. You know how I know that? Because when Bitcoin and Ethereum flash crashed down here after COVID, it scared the crap out of me. I'd been doing technical analysis for 3 years. It scared the hell out of me. Is this thing ever coming back? And I thought to myself after a few days, I was like, yes, it's going to come back. What am I kidding? I was like, I felt like such an idiot for wasting a week being afraid. And about a week after this crash happened, we were about right here. I said, you know what? I'm going to buy everything inside. I deployed as much cash as I could. I bought Ethereum. I bought Bitcoin like hell was about to freeze over. And I had to buy toboggans, man. I bought everything. And you know what? I bought Ethereum at 120 bucks. Oh my gosh, Jeb, Ethereum is so far down from all-time high. Yeah, it's still up like 15x from where I bought it. So what? Ethereum's down here, right? For me, because I bought it and I held it for 5 years, bought it $120, $140, $160, it's up 15x. For you, because you bought it and you've only held it for 6 months, it's down 46%. For me, because I bought it and I held it for 5 years, it's up 15 times. That's how you build wealth. And so instead of complaining like little babies about, oh my gosh, Jeb, the market's going to go down to $35,000. Oh, it's going to hit $49,000. It's just not fair. It's Donald Trump's fault. It's Kamala Harris's fault. No. The reason you don't have money is your fault. Most likely. Maybe you're 13. You can still go get a job. You can still go cut grass. Let's say you're quadriplegic. Okay, maybe it's not your fault. Right? Let's say you got kidnapped and you were in sex slavery. Not your fault. We who have the blessing, dare I say, the privilege of not being enslaved should need to go and help you. That's what us Christians do. We build strength so that we can use it to help people, not so we can use it to oppress them, but so that we can help people. Most of you watching, not all of you, I'm sure there are a few of you that need help. But the vast majority of you that have an internet connection and an able body, honestly, even just an able body, if you don't have money, it's your fault. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 26. Nobody wants to preach this verse, but I'll preach it. I will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. When fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, then shall they call upon me, but they will not find me. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. Saith wisdom. That's what Lady Wisdom says. You know who wisdom is? Jesus Christ. Christ is the incarnate wisdom. When you're a fool and you turn your back on wisdom, wisdom says, I will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. Why? Because I gave you every opportunity. Because 4 verses earlier, wisdom crieth in the streets. She shouteth on the rooftops. Listen to me. Follow me, please. That's what I'm doing. I'm begging you, listen to me. Get out of debt. Build an emergency fund. Invest in assets that you reasonably expect will be worth more in 5 to 7 years. If you don't do it, and you had every ability to do it, then in 5 to 7 years, I am going to be sitting here saying, I told you so. Please don't make that mistake again. That was foolish. Don't live just for today. You've got to put some away for tomorrow. You know why? Because the farmer who doesn't store up for winter and eats all that he has is a pauper when the cold comes. And that'll be you if you don't take advantage of the harvest that is going on right now. What harvest, Jeb? When Bitcoin drops down to $39,000, that doesn't mean the winter's come. That means seed prices are 50% off. Buy some. I know so many people that want to whine and complain because they have no money. They want to blame Donald Trump. They want to blame Kamala Harris. They want to blame Biden. They want to blame Obama, who hadn't been in office in 10 years. I know somebody who can't stop complaining about, oh wait, knocked his legs out from under him. It's been 16 years. Get up. Be a man. Be a woman. Buck up. Do something. I understand needing some help. I understand maybe you need to go to counseling. Maybe you need some antidepressants. Maybe there's no shame in any of that. My wife wants to be a mental health professional. There's no shame in it's hard. The place that there should be condemnation, or not condemnation, but conviction is if you didn't do anything about it. Let's do something about it. So let's not just sit here around the campfire and sing Kumbaya. Oh my gosh, we know where the market's going to go. I can tell you where I think the market's going to go. And I've got a professional, tenured opinion on where it's going to go. And I genuinely have a good understanding of the market. That's not good enough, though, because if I just sit here and tell you where the market's going to go, let me tell you what's going to happen. Number one, the stream will get twice as many viewership. The second I started talking about DCAing and cash and all this stuff, the second I start to, I've got the analytics. They're right here. Don't believe me? Right here. Look at the analytics. Peak concurrent. Go back on the stream. We hit peak concurrent right when I was talking about, right here, when I was talking about the charts. The second I stopped talking charts, the second I started talking application, concurrent went down. Some of you guys started tuning out. The second I started talking about, people started tuning out. You know what that is? That's fine. But I hope they're tuning out because they already know what I'm going to say. But the people that are tuning out because they only want to know what's going on in the charts and they don't want to know how to apply it to make money are being fools. It's foolish. We've got to understand what to do with this. And so here's what we do. We've got to dollar cost average. We've got to be consistent. Guys, my legs are on fire. I need to sleep more. I'm worried I'm going to injure myself. But I am going out there every day because this is not about my body. If I pull a hammy or if I hurt my bones a little bit, something that, I mean, not something catastrophic, but if I injure myself a little bit, you know what? That's the price I'm willing to pay for learning to be consistent, for learning to be ruthlessly consistent, because discipline equals freedom. There's a couple of book titles for you. You don't succeed on the good days. You win on the hard days. You win on the hard days when you show up anyway. There's no motivation. The motivation comes as a fruit of the fact that you were disciplined. I was not motivated to go on my run this morning. I was exhausted. I came back motivated. The discipline created the motivation. The motivation does not create the discipline. You've got to be disciplined in consistently applying investment principles. DCAIP. Dollar cost average? No. Disciplined in consistently applying the investment principles you've learned. Number one, dollar cost average. Every interval, we or I will invest X into Y on Z. I am making this as simple as I possibly can. If you don't understand this, please tell me. If there's something wrong in if there's some way that I'm not making this clear enough, please tell me. I'm trying to make this as actionable as I can. My heart breaks whenever I see somebody teaching something and they make it so philosophical. I need applicable. My 3-year-old understands the gospel because it's applicable. We are sinners. We have divorced ourselves from God's love because of our sin and our iniquity. And for our sin, we deserve hell. Christ, who was perfect, came and died for us. He shed his blood for us as an atonement for our sins, and he saves us, and we believe him. We're able to enter into the kingdom of heaven, on earth and in heaven. My 3-year-old understands that to some degree. It's simple. It's applicable. It's principled. It's not out here massively philosophical. When we are trying to teach something, my job is to make it as simple as possible. Here's simply what you need to do. Dollar cost average. Number 2, build a cash position. And every once in a while, deploy it. I don't want you having 50% of your net worth in cash. Cash is trash. Enough cash to make sure you're out of debt and have an emergency fund. In that realm, cash is king. Let's say this line. Over here, you are in debt and you have no emergency fund, E-fund, right? Boom. I'll just sign it like I signed my name, right? Over here, you're an investor. As an investor, cash is trash. As a debtor, cash is king because it's going to get you out of debt. It's going to build an emergency fund. Build the cash position. Every once in a while, dump it into the market. That's your application. But then what do? You need to store it long term. You need to find 3, secure storage. Right? Secure storage. Storage. There's a lot of different places you can do that. You can do it in Uphold's Vault, right? I love Vault. One of the sponsors of the channel. You can do it in a lot of places, but you store it for the long run. And then, number 4, what you get to do eventually is you get to harvest. Now, I have absolutely no intention of harvesting my cryptocurrency gains anytime soon. I have a lot of net worth that I built from building my cryptocurrency portfolio. I have, we've been a whole coiner for over 5 years now. Left half a coin to my siblings that they'd get access to when they were 21. We've got a lot of Ethereum, mostly Bitcoin and Ethereum is our portfolio, and I'm holding it for the ultra long term. I'm not going to harvest it anytime soon. I've held it for 5 to 7 years. If I sold it now, I'd be paying capital gains on over 90% of the liquidity of the liquidation, right? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hold it for a very long time, and I'm just going to keep investing more. I don't need the money. What am I going to do with it? I don't need it. We've kept our lifestyle very, very modest. We don't have a big flashy lifestyle. I don't want a big flashy lifestyle. I want to dump as much money as I can into investments, right? We're going to harvest one day, but that's going to be a long time from now. Bitcoin will probably be worth over $1 million before I ever sell any of it. I might never sell any of it, to be honest with you. Might just hold it as like a family heirloom, the family Bitcoin, right? And so this is what you do. if you apply this to the market, you'll be happy. Notice none of this said anything. Only step 2 here, the cash step, said anything about where the market is. If the market flash crashes down here to $38,000, but you believe in 5 to 7 years it'll be worth a lot more, dump the cash in. Maybe every week you dump 10% of the cash position in. Maybe you dump half of it in all at once because it dropped really, really low. Catching a falling knife will slice you wide open if you're a trader. It could make you fabulously wealthy if you hold it for the long term, if you're buying the right asset, which is why I almost only buy assets that have been around for over a decade, have a proven track record, and millions upon millions upon millions of adopters. Bitcoin, Ethereum being 2 prime examples. I hope you guys are enjoying today's stream. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're coming at you with technical analysis and financial sovereignty content every single day. I want to see you here more. Love seeing you here. Really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Let's read some chat. Before we read some chat, I want to let you guys know about one of our sponsors for today, which is none other than NordVPN. If you guys have not already signed up for NordVPN, you've got to do it. Here's why. In step 3, storage. If somebody steals from you, then you never get to step 4. Simple? Simple. NordVPN is the most inexpensive, most powerful, most importantly, way to protect yourself online. As you browse online, hackers and thieves are getting access to all kinds of information, from cookies, from all kinds of malware, phishing attempts, scams, advertising, all kinds of stuff. Websites are grabbing your information and selling it to the highest bidder. They don't really care if it's a thief or not. Sometimes they don't even know. Sometimes you got thieves masquerading as actual legitimate businesses buying your information so that they can collect enough information on you, build a profile, and steal from you. NordVPN is going to keep that information out of the wrong hands and only in your hands. NordVPN does this by rerouting your search traffic through their own servers so that it is not visible to the rest of the world. So enjoy a more private and secure internet, block out the malicious websites, stop the web trackers, and monitor your data leaks all in one app. You can get 4 months free on NordVPN when you sign up with our link down below. That translates to under $100 for 2-year subscription. It's like $82. Don't quote me on that, but it's like $82, $83 for 2 years. Absolutely incredible deal. If you have not signed up for NordVPN, you are missing out. You absolutely should, because if you get hacked in the middle of this, you never get to harvest. Let's say you get hacked and lose $1,000. You could have had NordVPN for like 20 plus years for $1,000. Let's say you get hacked and lose $5,000, $10,000, God forbid, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, $500,000. It happens. And you could have gotten NordVPN for 2 years for $88. I will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh, say it's wisdom, because you had a chance and you didn't take it. Sign up for NordVPN. Protect yourself. It's the right move. It's a wise thing to do. All right, let's read some chat. Let's see. Sell and lose or have patience and moon next year. Pretty much, yeah. Ray Zuby said, "Hey Jeb, love what you're doing. Can you please help me understand, where does the money go when you buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc.? Does somebody utilize that money? How is it used?" Yes. So when you buy Bitcoin, you are not buying from a company. You are buying from somebody who is selling it to you. So it's like I got my phone right here. Let's say I got my phone. Here you go. That'll be $500, whatever. Well, iPhone. Right. When you buy my phone, I get the money. When you buy Bitcoin, somebody gets the money. Who? The exchange. So the exchange is not getting the money and making money off of money. They're making money off of the fact that they sold the Bitcoin. So they literally traded one Bitcoin for $54,000. They had a Bitcoin, now they have $54,000. They didn't gain anything from that. They make their money from the trading fees. When you buy a Bitcoin, a lot of times an exchange will have a 0.05% trading fee. So on $100,000, maybe you pay $50 of fees. And it's very low and you don't notice it. But when they've got a couple million people trading, they're making a lot of money from that kind of volume, which is why the biggest metric that an exchange cares about is trading volume. They don't care whether the market's going up or down. I mean, they do for adoption's sake, but generally they make money from volume, whether people are trading bullish or bearish, long, short, they make money from the trading fee. So when you buy Bitcoin, you are paying whoever's giving you the Bitcoin. So if you bought Bitcoin from me, then you are giving me the money, and it's not so much that I'm making money, it's that I'm losing Bitcoin and gaining I'm gaining the dollars, right? Which is why I don't sell Bitcoin, because I value Bitcoin more than dollars, which is why Bitcoin goes up over time. So it depends on where you're buying it from. If you buy from Coinbase, then the money's going to Coinbase. But again, Coinbase is not making money, because the Bitcoin, they are only making money from the fees, or sometimes from the spread. Sometimes they'll sell it to you for slightly more, buy it from you for slightly less, so they make a little bit of money there because they've got to stay in business, right? It's only fair. But when you're actually buying Bitcoins, it's a like transaction. It's not like I'm selling you a chair that cost me $5 to produce. You're giving me $50 for it. I made $45. No, it's like I bought a chair for $45 and I'm selling it to you for $45. Right? That if you do it in the same day and the value hasn't appreciated. Who you buy Bitcoin from depends on who gets the money. Good question. Grayscale is out of Ethereum. No more selling anymore. Finally. Grayscale. Oh my goodness. The stress is gone now. Unload at 80% on the highs. Yeah. Sold at 71,000. Moved that money into stocks that went up another 15%. Good job, William Wonder. I love it. I love it. Let's see. Let's read a little bit more chat. Tell them, Jeb, Cosmo said. Tell them. Love it. Change your mind and change your circumstances. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Dude, you're... let's see. Not everyone's in a position to help themselves or change their circumstance. That's your privilege. Yeah, you know, that's the funny thing. When as a kid, I grew up in a single wide trailer that was kind of falling apart. My dad was almost basically disabled. I did not have a mom. They divorced when I was 3. The last time I saw my mother was when I was 5. There was an argument going on, and I cried when she left. You know, I don't really have a lot. Yeah, I'm white. Okay. Yeah, I'm young. True. Yeah, I'm able-bodied. Also true. I have a God in heaven who loves me. I'm extremely privileged. Oh, heck yeah, I am. I've got the God of the universe on my side. You dang right I'm privileged. But I didn't come from money. I remember $20 was like an inheritance. I didn't come from a whole lot from that standpoint. No disrespect or no lack of love for my father. He busted his tail for me, but he was really down and out. And so I can tell you from firsthand experience, and I remember watching 100 roaches crawl around. I remember that kind of stuff. I can tell you, I didn't come from a lot. I was not the kid that was supposed to make it anywhere. All I did was I decided one day I am going to make a video every single day until I change my circumstances. I will not stop until I change my circumstances. And I made a video every single day for about 1,000 days, over about 3.5 years, a little over 1,000 days. In that time, the channel grew from 0 to 100,000 subscribers because of my consistency and because of the blessings of my God in heaven. I wasn't even a Christian at the time. Right around the time we hit like 60,000 subscribers when I became a Christian. So, you know, God had favor on me, absolutely, but I didn't even know that. All I did was that I did something that had value in the marketplace, and I did it consistently. And you know what? I got rewarded for that. That's why the channel is where it is today, because of my consistency, because of what God did for me. Let me tell you something. I've never done anything for the kingdom of God other than get out of his way. He's responsible, and he has the glory for everything that's ever happened from me. That being said, most people, when they say they are screwed and they have no chance, are just not getting creative enough. There are people that are genuinely down and out. They are in slavery. You try and leave, bullet through the head. There are genuinely people in that situation. There are genuinely people that they are mentally or physically disabled and they genuinely cannot work. Absolutely. God has a heart for that. I've got a heart for that. For the least of these. For the widow and for the orphan and for the afflicted and for the poor. Right? Of course we've got a heart for those that cannot fend for themselves. But I will say this. There are a lot of people in our culture that say they can't fend for themselves and they're full of it. They're making excuses. I don't know whether that's you. It probably isn't. I don't know. I've never met you. I have no idea. But there are a lot of people that are so focused on what they can't do that they will never do anything. Let me put it like this. NF wrote a song. NF wrote a song. He said, let's see. He said, every day when you get up and think you'll never be great, you'll never be great. Not because you're not, but the hate will always find a way to cut you up and murder your faith. That's what's going on. There is the doubt. There is the hate. There is that self-hatred. This hatred of yourself where you think, I don't deserve to be rich. I don't deserve to be wealthy. I don't deserve to do... And so you hold yourself down and it murders your faith. It kills you. Take a look in the mirror. You look in that mirror, what do you say? You look in that mirror and say, hey, in 10 years, we're going to be very well off. Or you look in that mirror and say, 10 years, oh... I'm going to be down. I'm going to be sad. You know, the most inspiring stories are the stories where people have no chance. Low potential. They're just a bunch of low potential people. They have no chance. Societally, economically, spiritually, mentally, physically, whatever. They got no chance. A fisherman from Galilee, a carpenter from Nazareth. These are not people that had any potential. Guess what happened? Something changed in their spirit. They were called by God. One of them was God. Is God. Something changed in their spirit. And they looked at that mountain, and in faith, they said, move. And it moved. And a fisherman that had no chance, the Church of Christ was built upon him. Because a God in heaven showed up and changed something in his heart. And called him. And led him. Friends, you've got to figure out what you're called to. Are you called to being good stewards of your money? Yes. Do you need Jesus to speak to you in prayer to know that? No. Because the Bible says that. You want to hear God talk? Open your Bible and read it out loud. Subdue it. Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. Subdue it. Subdue what? Subdue the earth. Subdue it. Be in control of it. Set it on a collision course with growth. Be the salt of the earth. Fertilize it. Grow it. Do something with it. I am absolutely certain that if God has called me to do something, he will give me every single thing I need to do it. How do I know that? Because the word says that God has given me everything necessary for life and godliness. He's called me to something, and I do what I need to do to get out of his way so that he can work through me, then it'll happen. All I've got to do to serve God is get out of his way. You've got to get out of your own way. You've got to get out of your own way, and you've got to let the right character traits lead you into success. And if you do that for long enough, then mountains that could not and should not have been able to move. Let me tell you something about the United States. The United States of America never should have won the Revolutionary War. Morally, no. I'm so glad we did. Morally, practically. Bunch of ragtag dudes with muskets gang together against the most powerful military in the history of mankind. Stronger than the Roman Empire. And we won. Why? Because in faith, the revolutionaries stared that mountain, Great Britain, in the face, in faith, and said, move. And guess what? It cost something. It cost a lot. But in the end, because of their faith and because of their discipline and because of their character, that mountain moved. And so if there's a mountain in your life that you don't think can move, then you've got two options. I don't care what the mountain is. You've got two options. You can accept it, and you can be buried under that mountain. Or as Christ called us to do, you can look at that faith, look at that mountain in faith, and say, move into the sea and get out of my way. Those are your choices. The mountain might not move if you do that. That's the cold, hard truth of being alive in this world. But it might. But if you give up, there's not a shot that it's going anywhere. Hope you guys have enjoyed today's stream. If you have, also make sure to sign up for Uphold. I cannot wait to show you guys some of Uphold. And I've got really exciting news. Let me log in here. I want to show you this. Uphold is the place for you to go to get. Give me 1 second. I'm going to log in here so I can show you. Uphold is the place to go to get. I want to show you while I say it. Sorry, here we go. Uphold is the place. Let's do this. To go to get Caspa. Boom. Caspa's on Uphold. If you want to get Caspa, this is the best place to go. Make sure to sign up for Uphold with the link in the description box down below, because this is where you can get Caspa. Guys, there's so many cool features. There's something absolutely incredible about Uphold. And one of the things that is great about Uphold is it has this savings account. I'm going to see if I can show you. I don't know if I can show you because obviously there's sensitive information here. But there is a 5% savings account. If you deposit just $1,000, then you will get 5%. It's a cash savings account. It's a very, very good product because a lot of times to get a 5% yield on a high yield savings account, you've got to have you've got to have like $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 deposited. In my bank, where I have held my savings account, you've got to have a minimum deposit of, I think, $15,000 to get the 5% interest. So I don't recommend you hold too much cash, but when you're holding cash for the dips, Uphold's the place to do it because you can hold it in that account and generate 5% on it. That's incredible. So make sure if you've not already, sign up for Uphold with the link in the description box down below. Get Caspa. Get access to one of the most simple, user-friendly exchanges in the entire game. It's got so many markets. A lot of markets that come very early. If you want a simple user interface with a lot of power and you get access to new markets as early as possible, Uphold's a place to go. So make sure you sign up with the link in the description box down below. We're going to read chat here for a second, then we're going to wrap it out. So, Kat said, amen. Ron Hart said, praise the Savior, blood. Thank you. Absolutely. Not thank you, but yes, absolutely. Go tell it on the mountain, Jeb. That's the goal. Confidence in God. Yep. Amen, brother. Love the faith. Absolutely. Got to trust him. Let's read a little bit more chat, and then we will wrap it out. Yep. Okay. Well, I do appreciate all of you for tuning in. Me, myself, Yo said, wow, this is some pretty solid analysis. Good job, dude. Thank you. All right. Well, hope you've enjoyed today's stream. We're going to wrap it out. I love you all. Choose financial sovereignty. Get out of debt. Be intentional with your money. Have confidence in God. Tell that mountain to move. Look in the mirror. Tell yourself the right narrative. I love you. Before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.